So it sounds like, because I'm thinking of cost of living in our area here, it sounds like you must be doing a lot of means testing, because it seems like, to me, that you have a hard time with a family living here for under $100,000 a year.
Well, that's when I said timing.
Yeah.
Timing is definitely important in this issue, because if you had somebody that recently lost a job, a lot of the people that get laid off get bonuses.
Mm-hmm.
And that bonus is part of that average 6 months of gross income. And that can throw somebody out for quite a number of months.
So you have to tell people in many cases that they just need to wait for a while.
That's right. So they need to wait. A lot of them need to wait, or if they can't wait, then they actually do have to consider either a Chapter 13 or a Chapter 11. Yes.
Okay. So I don't know if we've pretty well covered this, but just in case, I'll just throw out the question anyway. So how is the eligibility for bankruptcy determined?
Well, you have, as I say, there's an income qualification. There's a formal income qualification, which is what we just went through, which is we call the means testing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is, in addition to that, there is I would say, your present income. So forget about the bonus you got, forget about the aberrations of what may have happened in the past, but presently and going forward, what's your income and expense? And so the policing forces of the bankruptcy will look at that too, so that if you were laid off and you passed that means test, but now you're working and you've got a good job, you see, then the powers that police the bankruptcy, they may say, well, you have too much income now and you can afford to repay your debts, you don't qualify. It's more of a subjective test. Or they may say, you still have this rental house, but you don't need to keep it. I mean, that's a frill. So better that you try to take care of your creditors than that you try to keep this rental property. So we're going to say you don't really qualify for Chapter 7 bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, how does business debt play into being eligible for bankruptcy, and why is that important for real estate investors?
Well, because in this formal eligibility test that I mentioned, the means testing, it's designed only for those individuals that have primarily non-business debts, and or at least in this area, in the Bay Area, the U.S. Trustee's Office, as I understand it, will not count rental mortgage debt as consumer debt. Mm-hmm. So that if your debts are primarily from rental mortgages, or even tax debt is considered not personal debt, or other kinds of unsecured lines of credit that were used for the rental, for example, the rental property or a business or non-consumer related expenditure, then if that's primarily what your debt's comprised of, then you wouldn't have to go through that type of means testing.
I see. Okay. Why should you consult with a bankruptcy attorney before going ahead with a short sale?
Well, the short sales, at first, my take on them was, why do it? Why not just go through a bankruptcy and
foreclosure?
Yeah, because the problem is that with a rental, as I understand it, there can be tax consequence for doing a short sale.
Or a vacation home or second residence or whatever. I mean,
yeah, if it's not your primary, I think you
don't qualify for an exclusion.
Exactly, and you have to worry about getting that 1099 for the discharge of indebtedness.
Right.
But my understanding, and I ran this by an IRS person once, is that if you filed a bankruptcy, then there's no debt that you have to worry about, no indebtedness that you're discharging for income purposes, because you're getting rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
So What I'm finding now, though, is that a lot of these mortgage companies don't want to take the properties back, and that's becoming a problem. And so after the bankruptcy, people are actually surprised because they think, well, gee, I went through the bankruptcy. I don't own this house anymore, do I? Well, you do own the house until somebody forecloses on it or you sell it. And so a lot of these people, I have to counsel to do a short sale where the rental is underwater, and it's an albatross around their neck.
So I guess you want to have the discharge happen while you're in bankruptcy.
Yeah, so I think the best way, I mean, you can't always time these things, but you know, if you could, then doing a bankruptcy first to get rid of the debt makes sense, and then follow it with a short sale. Although the problem is in a Chapter 7 you can't do a short sale because you don't own the property, your bankruptcy trustee does. And then the other unfortunate issue is that you know, if you have a homeowner's bill, that homeowner's dues don't get discharged, at least for the ongoing payments.
So like the monthly...
yeah, so you would have to keep servicing that until such time as you went through your short sale.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
How are obligations for real estate different from other debt?
Well, and it's a little tricky, and people don't always understand that actually all debts are discharged except if the law says they're not. So even mortgages are discharged. And so what that means is that after the bankruptcy, if you were to lose the house to foreclosure, any amount that the mortgage company felt that it didn't recoup on the foreclosure, you wouldn't be personally responsible for, in the sense that they couldn't sue you and garnish your wages to recover what they didn't get out of the foreclosure. But the bankruptcy discharge does not get you out of what's called a security interest. So security interest liens stay on the property, and you don't get out of them, except if in certain circumstances you can take affirmative action and move to strip, what we call strip a mortgage, or if it's an involuntary, a judgment lien, you can sometimes get rid of those in a Chapter 7 as well.
Okay. Do you have a choice about whether to keep real estate when you file for a bankruptcy?
If it's a reorganization chapter, Chapter 13 or 11, you keep all your property. So that's a benefit for that. Chapter 7, it's not your choice. So the thing you have to understand about Chapter 7 is when you file, your bankruptcy trustee owns everything. So you may think that your house has no equity in it, but if the Chapter 7 trustee thinks otherwise, you can argue till you're blue in the face, and he'll just go and put a for sale sign up in front of your house to test the market. So if you're scared of that, then you don't want to do a Chapter 7, because it's not your call as to whether you keep the house. You get an exemption, of what we call the homestead exemption, which nowadays with people not having a lot of equity is probably sufficient. But if you're worried about it, then the reorganization chapter is what people are going to probably opt for, and then they can opt to keep the property.
So it sounds like then what you're saying is if you've got Chapter 7, then you have this trustee situation, you more or less lose control over your own property.
Yes, you do, and that's why I said before, you cannot do a short sale, or you cannot expect to do a short sale while you're in the Chapter 7. Now, hopefully it just lasts for 3 months and you're out, but while you're in it, you really don't have control over your property.
And then for Chapter 11 and 13, though, you do still maintain some
Yeah, you do, and you have control over your property, and you do have the court, bureaucracy that, as much as it protects you against creditors, it does prohibit you from free reign with your property. So you have to petition the court if you want to sell property, and you have to give creditors an opportunity to participate. But you are in control. You make the business decisions if you're in a reorganization chapter.
Yeah. So since I'm the tax person, I'll just put a little by-to-by that when you have this situation with the trustee under Chapter 7, you actually can create a separate taxpayer. And so your income and other stuff goes into this bankruptcy for a period of time, and then sort of and so it's reported there and then comes back out to you more or less.
Yeah, except in the most individual cases, you will find that the trustees don't want to have anything to do with it. They have the right to abandon the property.
Okay.
And so most often you're going to find that the Chapter 7 bankruptcy estate that exists for a few months is not going to capture your capital gains, I think is what you're trying to get at. It will in a Chapter 13 also. It's not going to help you. Chapter 11 it will. So you can capture your capital gain if you have that in a Chapter 11, but that's getting kind of complicated, I think.
Okay. We have just a couple minutes left. Maybe you can talk for just a moment about what's happening with loan modification through real estate. What are you seeing there?
It's a terrible backlog. I can't help but be cynical about the whole process, and I personally don't get involved in it because I've just seen so much shenanigans that it's sad. And the people that seem to get it can take them about a year. I've seen things take about a year.
Yeah.
And even then they don't get right. The process doesn't.
It seems like I've heard so many stories of people saying, "Oh, I got a loan modification approved," and meanwhile, had it foreclosed underneath me while it was going on. So,
there's plenty of stories of the left hand not knowing where the right is.
Okay, Stan. Well, we're really in the last minute. Maybe I'll let you just throw out a final thought.
Okay, well, I said, don't be afraid of consulting with a bankruptcy attorney. There are a lot of bankruptcy attorneys that will do free consultations. The Chapter 13 that we mentioned for individuals, there are attorneys that will take a case for no attorney's fee up front. So you're just paying a filing fee and going forward. So, there's a place for the bankruptcy law. You should consider it and use it if it's appropriate.
Okay. Thank you for being my guest, Dan.
My pleasure.
Pleasure having you. Hope we've given you folks something to think about today. And certainly to be aware of. There's so many people that are in financial difficulty right now, so you're providing a valuable service. And with that, we'll see you next time on Financial Insider Weekly.